Hello and welcome. My name is David Howard. I'm the Director of Marketing with Bright Pattern. And as part of our ongoing educational series, today I'm speaking with David DJ Jones of National Marketing Resources. DJ's professional experience began with 7 years of service in the United States Army. He also served for 3 years in the National Guard subsequent to September 11, 2001. DJ has 14 years of experience in call center operations. He joined Citibank as a unit manager of collections in 1999. He transitioned to customer service and sales in 2004 and was promoted to operations manager in 2005. While at Citi, he received the Chairman's Leadership Award in recognition of performance, placing him in the top 1% of management. DJ has been with National Marketing Resources since 2009, when he was brought on to be the customer service manager. He was later promoted to Director of Client Services. DJ is responsible for ensuring that NMR customer service provides an outstanding customer experience and adds value to the business. He is also a member of the Kansas City Association of Contact Center Professionals. DJ is going to be speaking with us today about universal queuing. DJ, thanks for speaking with us today.
Oh, you're quite welcome. When I think about universal queuing and its implications to call center operations, to me it's really tied to utilization and to the contact center's ability to utilize agents fully. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is per minute billing. Per minute billing is a model that'll be very familiar to anybody that operates in a business process outsourcing space because it's probably the way that you're billing your clients. For those of us who manage in-house customer service contact centers, understanding your per minute operating cost is also useful as a way of determining if the call center is performing efficiently. So I think that if you look at it in terms of operating costs per minute, it's a metric that everybody can relate to. So let me set some expectations. Contact centers exist to serve clients. And in order to service those clients, they have to create staffing models that allow them to achieve a quality of service that is typically expressed as a service level goal and a quality assurance or a client satisfaction goal. Client satisfaction is beyond the scope of our discussion today. What I want to focus on is staffing, utilization, and the opportunities for increased efficiency that we can realize by using a holistic approach to workflow management through universal queuing. So let's talk a little bit about call arrival. I mean, we're all professionals. Everybody here understands that your call arrival is going to be nonlinear, and that the arrival pattern is either going to be smooth, random, or peaks, depending on the nature of your business. But the problem that we all have to solve for is, what do you do about that? Because you know, if you're staffed to a service level, there are going to be periods of time where your agents aren't utilized. They're not going to be on a call. They're not going to be engaged in a productive activity. They're just going to be waiting for the next call to come in. And the reason that that's problematic is because if you're billing per minute, it's all well and good when your agents are on the phone accruing billable minutes. It's not so good when they're waiting for the next call to arrive. We all staff to service level. So when we make the determination, next slide please. Slide please, Dave. Sorry. So we make a determination that in order to satisfy our clients, we're going to answer a certain percentage of calls within a certain amount of time. The implication of that is if we're ever going to hit service level, an agent has to be available within 20 seconds of call arrival 80% of the time. And of course, call centers use typically Erlang C or simulation to model their workforce management requirements and determine, what their staffing needs are. One of the things that I hope you get out of this is that as we discuss availability and utilization, you'll be able to see that as your service level goals go up, your utilization goes down. And in fact, at some point, trying to achieve a higher service level becomes a point of diminishing returns. Next slide. For those of you who are interested, that's actually what Erlang C looks like. Next slide. Let's talk about availability and utilization. And first of all, let me say that utilization and occupancy are two terms that are used interchangeably within the industry, and for the purposes of our discussion today, they basically mean the same thing. So availability is the percentage of time an agent is logged in and ready to take the call. Utilization, or occupancy, is the percentage of logged in time an agent actually spends handling calls. So it's the time that they have a client on the line and they're interacting with that client. Although hold time and transfer time also typically winds up getting lumped into that utilization metric because of the way telecommunication systems record time. Not ready measures the amount of time an agent is not available to take a call because they're doing something else. So if I've got an agent and that agent works 8 hours a day and they're logged into a ready state for 6, the way I would calculate their availability is 6 divided by 8. So their availability is 75%. If I spend 5 of those 8 hours speaking to clients, my utilization is 62.5%, 5 divided by 8. So pretty simple math. So what this also tells us is given identical handle times, I'm going to need less agents to answer 70% of 100 calls within 30 seconds than I do to answer 80% of 100 calls within 20 seconds. Why? Because I have to have more agents waiting around available to hit that higher service level goal. And in a lot of call centers, many calls are answered with 0 wait time. They come in and they route straight to an agent. That is a function of availability and utilization. And for that to happen, obviously that agent has to have been sitting there ready to take the call. When we talk about ready, there are 2 types of not ready. I like to think of them as good not ready and bad not ready. Good not ready is not ready that's associated with an activity that I can bill to a client. Bad not ready is not ready that's just cost to business. For example, we actually pay our associates through lunch. Not every call center does that, but we do. So when they're taking their lunch, they're on the clock, but they're not available for production. When they take their 2 15-minute breaks, again, they're on the clock, but they're not available for production. We actually have a personal time code, and we allow associates 5 minutes a day of personal time, and there's a reason for that. If you don't give your agents the ability to accurately report, hey, I had to take a bathroom break, or hey, I spilled coffee on myself and I had to go take care of that. Well, when that happens, when they need to go to the bathroom, they're going to go to the bathroom. If they spill hot liquid on themselves, they're going to get the hot liquid off them, and they're just going to lie about what they were doing during that time period because you didn't give them a way to report it. So call centers that don't have personal time are not really doing themselves any favors because personal time just becomes equipment failure, account follow-up, coaching, meeting. There are all sorts of games that agents play with not ready when they don't have the ability to accurately report what they're doing. Another non-productive not ready code, equipment failure. If their system's down, they're not able to do anything, they're not able to get on the phone. If there's not other off-the-phone work you can give them, basically they're on the clock, but they're not able to produce. On the other side of the page, we've got the good not ready codes. Go back, please. Productive. These are codes that we can bill to clients. So if they're doing email, I can bill out that email at a piece rate. If they're making outbound calls, which is a productive support code in our world because of the way the telco works, again, that's billable minutes, and I can invoice a client for that. If they're doing follow-up work to resolve client issues, we have a way of tracking that and billing it. Coaching, meeting, and training, depending on the agreement we have with the clients, part of the agreement with the client may be that they pay us a set rate per associate hour to take care of those requirements. For example, if we're going to train associates to handle a new campaign, we would either wrap that training cost into the setup cost for the campaign, or we would bill that to the client directly at a per hour basis. Next slide, please. So let's talk about the maximum potential availability an associate has. So they're going to be off the phone for a half hour in not ready, taking their lunch. They're going to take 2 15-minute breaks, and we allow up to 5 minutes per day personal time. That doesn't mean we expect them to take 5 minutes a day of personal time, but we have that budgeted into our availability calculation. So what that tells us is our associates' maximum possible availability, if they're logged in and in a ready state for every minute of the day, is 86.375%. They work an 8-hour shift. they're not going to be available, or they're going to be not ready for 1.09 hours. So they have 6.91 hours that they can be available to take a call. That also assumes no productive support, no meetings, and no training. The way that we calculate utilization, their utilization can never be higher than their availability. So in that way, we're a little different from some call centers. Some call centers back the not ready calculation out, or at least back lunches and breaks out of their utilization calculation. We don't do that, and the reason that we don't do that is because for us, utilization is a financial metric. For me, when I talk about agent utilization, what I'm trying to communicate is the amount of time that I'm paying somebody that they are engaged in production. So if I am paying someone to go to lunch, and there's no way for them to be in a production state while they're at lunch, which is logical, I want to be able to account for that as a cost to business. Now, a lot of call centers back that out, and there's an argument to be made for that. I mean, it's a lot easier to go into your boss and say, hey, my staff was 80% utilized, than to go into your boss and say, hey, my staff was 70% utilized. The number just sounds better, but to me, the real value of being able to calculate occupancy or utilization lies in your ability to measure the amount of time that your agents are on the clock that they're not producing. And all of our metrics around utilization are built around that concept. Next slide. So let's talk a little bit about utilization. Again, it's the percentage of time an agent will actually be occupied on a call versus available but waiting for a call. One of the cool things about universal queuing is it lets you fill that downtime with other production activities, and it lets you do it very efficiently. Because the same ACD that is routing calls to those agents is also going to be the ACD that routes them email, that routes them chat interactions, that routes them social media interactions. It's all controlled by the same ACD. That ACD is plugged into your workforce management software. So not only can the ACD make decisions based on what's going on right now, but the ACD has your call arrival data. So it can look at the day, determine, am I above forecast or below forecast, and adjust the workload appropriately. And it can do it very fast, and it can do it very accurately. And that is where a lot of the power in the universal queuing model comes from. It may take somebody in your workforce management department that is actively watching queuing and actively moving agents from one skill to another 20 to 40 minutes to look at the day's data, determine I'm above or below forecast, and I need to reallocate resources in a certain way to accommodate that. An ACD with universal queuing functionality that's tied into your workforce management solution has all that data available, and it can make that determination much faster than a human being. And it can also measure, and it can also react more dynamically. Maybe I'm below forecast before noon, and I start, and the trend reverses after noon, and I start coming in above forecast. The ACD can adjust to that a lot faster than a human can, because it's not having to observe, orient, decide, and act the way a human does. It's just performing calculations and allocating resources. As we talked about earlier, when service level requirements go up, utilization goes down. And due to economies of scale, large call centers can more fully utilize agents than small call centers. I just did a real simple Erlang chart that illustrates that. And when you look at the call center that has 142 agents and is taking 1,024 calls per half hour, and you look at that in terms of the number of agents required to handle each one of those calls, and you compare it to the call center that's only taking 8 calls per half hour, you can see that the larger call center on a per call basis is a lot more efficient, and it's because of economies of scale. And there's really no way for the smaller call center to get around that. It's just mathematical. However, if the smaller call center has a way to more efficiently utilize those agents, like a universal queuing solution that will drive those agents' utilization higher without burning them out and getting them to quit, that is a real win. Something you should be aware of, the way that we measure utilization, as your utilization starts to move past 70%, we start to see increased attrition. If you calculate it using the model where you back out lunches and breaks, typically the number is 85, 86%. It's just a difference in the way the metric's calculated. Next slide, please. So this is a sample utilization table that really illustrates the impact of utilization on revenue. So what I've done here is I've assumed that I'm a small call center and I have a high operating cost. So my loaded associate cost per operating hour is $30. So I've got clients and I need to figure out how to bill those clients on a per minute basis so that I can meet my operating cost and ideally make a margin. Well, at $30 an hour, my operating costs per minute are 50 cents. But that assumes 100% utilization. That assumes that for every minute of the day, those associates are in production. We already know that's not the case. That because of utilization, my production is going to be something less than 100%. So you can see that if I'm only utilizing those associates 10% of the time, they're spending 90% of their time sitting around, I would have to bill a client $5 per minute to break even. Obviously, that's not going to happen. However, if I can hit a pretty modest utilization target, if I can utilize those associates 50% of the time, my operating costs become $1 a minute. And I can certainly be competitive as a small call center with a pricing of around $1 a minute. I can offer, to service clients for $1.10 a minute. I'm in the ballpark for other call centers my size, and I'm making a 10% margin, and life is good. However, what if I have a way to increase my utilization because I have a universal queuing solution in place? And what if, because I can count email and chat and social media, I can add those into the task list that my agents are performing intraday, maybe I can drive my utilization up to 70%. Well, at 70%, my operating cost per minute becomes 71 cents. So if I'm looking at bidding my services out, I can actually underbid other call centers the same size because I'm able to more fully utilize my agents. This gives me huge competitive advantage, right? I can either bid contracts the same way everybody else in my space is and just pocket the difference as an increased margin, or I can secure market share by underbidding other competing centers knowing they can't do anything about it because I can bid out below their operating cost. And obviously, if you're submitting bids below your operating cost, you're not going to be around very long. Next slide, please. So as the preceding charts indicates, as utilization goes up, the revenue we take in increases. As universal queuing starts to spread throughout the industry, the ability to more completely utilize agents is going to mean that call centers that can achieve higher levels of utilization without the attrition that they've had in the past, because the link between utilization and attrition is really volume specific. What drives your associates away is when they're just back to back to back inbound client contacts, inbound calls. If it's I'm on a call and then I answer an email and then I do a chat session, or I do multiple chat sessions, and then I take another call, the agent is more fully utilized, but from the agent's perspective, the chance to respond to that email or the chance to respond to that chat is actually a break. So the agent's more fully utilized, but they're not as incentivized to leave because they feel overworked. Email, voicemail, callbacks, and outbound activity all become measurable through one integrated ACD, which is huge. I don't know how many of you out there are in the position that we are in, but it's extremely frustrating when you've got 4 different platforms and you're trying to pull data from 4 different platforms and combine that data to create a picture of what your agent did in the last 24 hours or the last week or the last month. It's wonderful to be able to go to one place and have all that data available. And my professional opinion is that in 10 years, every commercial call center will be using this technology because they're going to have to. If they don't migrate to this technology, they're not going to be able to remain competitive in terms of their utilization and their operating costs. And they're going to find themselves consistently underbid by centers that have embraced this approach. Dave, questions?
Yeah, so since utilization depends so much on call arrival, can you just kind of recap and explain a bit more specifically how universal queuing gives you better utilization with your agents?
Yeah, sure. What universal queuing does is it allows you to automate the process of ensuring that your agent's downtime during periods of low call arrival is spent performing billable productions, such as answering email, responding to chat requests, monitoring social media. Since those transactions are assigned by the ACD, the process is more efficiently managed than a process involving supervisors directing agents to log out to perform those tasks. It also uses the economies of scale present in your call center more efficiently than creating specialized skill groups of agents who only respond to email or text or whatever. One of the key advantages of universal queuing is that you can efficiently convert non-billable downtime between calls into billable production.
So wouldn't a call center rather have specialized teams? Here's the team handling live web chat, here's the team handling email, here's the team handling those inbound voice calls?
A lot of call centers do that, but I would refer you back to the chart we looked at earlier that examines associate efficiency against workflow. Creating many specialized agent pools reduces the efficiency you gain from economies of scale. There are also environmental considerations. In call centers that implement that model, the off-the-phone email and chat teams are viewed as preferable jobs by the line agents who are on the phone. And what that does is it creates a dynamic where the teams with the lowest operating cost and the least complexity wind up being staffed by your most tenured associates. Dispersing that work among the line agents creates a productive breather between calls. I think that the universal queuing model is vastly superior, not just in terms of operating efficiency, but also in terms of your associates' work experience.
Okay, and then you spoke about attrition, associate attrition, and didn't really put any numbers in the presentation, so maybe you don't have anything for me on this one, but can you give us any sense of the cost of that attrition, when utilization gets too high and the agent turnover? There's got to be a cost associated with that as well.
Oh, there absolutely is. It's difficult to give you an exact answer because there are a lot of variables involved. And when I say there are a lot of variables involved, it really depends on the cost to your specific call center to recruit an agent, bring them on board, get them trained, set up their benefits. Whether or not you have a probationary period relating to benefits has a huge impact on your cost of recruitment. There are lots of variables that affect the cost of attrition, but with that said, for many call centers, attrition is a significant cost. I've actually worked in a department that had 150% turnover,
Wow.
and if you're turning your agents over 150%, just the cost of replacing the agents that you're losing becomes a significant impact to the profit and loss of that business.
Wow. So all in all, then, you're pretty confident this is going to be an industry trend. You said within the next 10 years, everybody's going to switch to universal queuing?
Yeah, you can see a similar trend today with regard to large call centers versus small call centers. A call center with 10,000 seats can always underbid a call center with 100 seats by a substantial amount, just because they have a greater efficiencies generated from their economies of scale. That doesn't mean there's not a place for the small call center, but if you're running a small call center, you can't try to build your value proposition around a cost-based value proposition because you just can't compete with the big guys. This is just my professional opinion, but I don't see how a traditional call center operating with a group of agents divided into multiple skill groups and relying on traditional workforce management tools to manage productive support activities can compete with a call center that handles those activities through an ACD. The call center using universal queuing can operate at a higher level of utilization, and that means they can bid contracts at a rate that generates revenue for them, but is lower than the operating cost of the traditional call center.
Mm-hmm.
I think traditional call centers are going to find that they're getting priced out of the market.
So it's a real equalizer then for the smaller call center to implement universal queuing.
Yeah, absolutely. You can get some of the efficiencies that a larger call center derives from their economies of scale if you're smaller, but you can utilize your agents more thoroughly.
Well, DJ, this has been just tremendous information. I think it's you make a compelling case, and it's very fascinating. I think folks are going to want to dig into this a bit deeper. If somebody wants to reach out to you for follow-up, should they contact you direct or go through NMR? How should they contact you?
Yeah, you're more than welcome to provide my email, and that's djones@nmrdirect.com. And I'm always happy, to respond to any questions.
All right, and then so the website is www.nmrdirect.com as well.
That's correct.
Great. Well, again, thank you so much. This has been fascinating, and I think there's going to be a lot of interest in digging down in this a bit further. So thanks so much. And just revisiting your bio at the top of the session, thank you for your service as well.
You're welcome.
Okay, thanks, DJ.
Thank you.